You have $15,000. That's it. $15,000 sitting in your bank account, burning a hole so profound it's practically structural. You could, of course, buy a sensible four-door beige sedan that gets 40 miles per gallon and slowly erodes your will to live. Or you could have the wind in your hair, the sun on your face, and the glorious mechanical symphony of a proper sports car howling beneath you as you attack a canyon road in the American Southwest. This is the choice, and today we're settling it once and for all. In one corner, wearing the red, white, and blue trunks of the everyman's hero, the Mazda MX-5 Miata, the little Japanese roadster that has been telling people to smile since 1989. In the other corner, in a very expensive German suit, the Porsche Boxster, the 986 and 987 generation. A car so devastatingly good that Porsche's own engineers reportedly wept when they were told to make the 911 better than it. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because we drop new videos every week and the algorithm apparently needs your help. All the products and resources we mentioned today are linked in the description below, including where to find the best deals on both of these cars right now. Alright, let's get into it. The Japanese have a philosophy called Jinba Ittai. It translates roughly to horse and rider as one. It's what Mazda used when they designed the MX-5, and it is, without question, the most profound thing anyone has ever said about a car that makes roughly 150 horsepower. Because here's the thing about the Miata that Americans, particularly those who grew up worshipping at the altar of big block V8s, often miss. It is not about the power. It is never about the power. It is about the communication, the feedback, the mechanical sympathy between you and a machine that genuinely, honestly wants to tell you exactly what it's doing at every single moment. The gear shift on a late NA or NB generation Miata it's like stirring warm chocolate. Short throw, precise gates, a tactile click at every slot. You don't shift it so much as flick it. And that front-engine rear-wheel drive layout wrapped in a body that weighs roughly the same as a well-fed golden retriever means the car is flickable in a way that nothing costing $15,000 has any right to be. On Pacific Coast Highway or your local canyon road, the Miata doesn't need speed to feel fast. It needs corners. It needs the compression of a valley and the apex of a switchback. Americans love this car because it strips away every layer of automotive pretension and just drives. Canyon carving in a Miata is a religious experience for $20 in premium fuel. The suspension geometry is forgiving enough that even moderately enthusiastic drivers discover their limits gradually. There's no nasty snap oversteer lurking in the dark. It communicates, it warns, it guides. It's the most honest car ever built. And should anything go wrong, and very little does because this is a Mazda, you can fix almost anything with a basic set of hand tools, a Haynes manual, and the kind of determined optimism that built America. Parts are cheap, labor is cheap. Your weekend mechanic neighbor with a floor jack and a six-pack of Coors can sort most MX-5 problems before the big game kicks off. The power-to-weight ratio is not staggering, but it doesn't need to be. This is the definition of the slow car fast philosophy. And it is magnificent. Right, stop it. Stop calling the Boxster a poor man's 911. Because that framing is not only wrong, it is aggressively wrong. It is wrong in the way that calling the Pacific Ocean a large puddle is wrong. The Porsche Boxster, specifically the 986 and 987 generations you can find today on Bring a Trailer or Craigslist for between $12,000 and $25,000, is a mid-engine masterpiece. And the mid-engine layout is not merely a marketing point. It is physics. Beautiful, inexorable physics. When the engine sits behind the seats and ahead of the rear axle, the mass is centralized. The polar moment of inertia, the resistance to rotation around the car's vertical axis, drops dramatically. What this means in practice is that when you turn into a corner, the Boxster rotates with a precision and balance that the 911, with its engine hanging out over the rear axle like a philosophical question about gravity, simply cannot match at the limit. But forget the engineering lecture for a moment. Listen to this. The flat-six engine in the Boxster S, particularly the 3.2-liter unit, produces a sound that I can only describe as what it would sound like if a Swiss watch factory was somehow set on fire in the most beautiful way imaginable. From 3,000 RPM to the 7,000 RPM redline, it builds through a howl, a wail, a mechanical aria that makes grown men cry in parking lots. The power delivery is linear, immediate, and utterly addictive. The 987 generation, especially the Boxster S, produces 295 horsepower, And in a car weighing under 3,000 pounds, the power-to-weight ratio is genuinely empirically frightening in the best possible way. And this car, this brilliant, mid-engined, flat-six howling machine, can be yours for the price of a used Honda Accord if you know where to look and what to avoid. Which brings us, inevitably, to the part of the program where I destroy everything I just said. Every car has a boogeyman. The Miata's boogeyman is called the Rust Devil, and the Boxster's is called the IMS bearing. And I want to talk about both of them, because one will cost you a weekend, and the other will cost you your kid's college fund. Let's start with the Porsche, because the IMS bearing deserves its own documentary, its own support group, and possibly its own congressional inquiry. The IMS bearing, the intermediate shaft bearing, sits at the rear of the flat-six engine in 986 and early 987 Boxsters. It is a single-row ball bearing that, when it fails, and in many cases it will fail, does not fail quietly. It fails catastrophically. It grenades. It turns your beautiful flat-six into a sculpture of broken metal and shattered hopes. A replacement IMS bearing, done preventatively as part of a clutch job because you have to pull the engine and transmission anyway, will cost you somewhere between $2,000 and $4,000 at an independent Porsche specialist. If the bearing fails before you do the job, you're looking at a full engine rebuild at $8,000 to $15,000 on a car you bought for $12,000. Let that arithmetic wash over you. The later 987 generation, from 2009 onward, switched to the M97 engine and eliminated the traditional IMS bearing concern. If you're shopping, aim for a 987 built after 2008 with documented service history. Your financial advisor will thank you. Then there is the coolant tube. Running through the Boxster's engine case is a plastic coolant pipe that over time becomes as structurally sound as a pensioner's hip. When it cracks, and at high mileage it will crack, coolant enters the engine. And coolant in the combustion chamber of a flat-six is not a situation that resolves itself pleasantly. Another $2,000 to $3,000? Easy. The Miata, by comparison, has the Rust Devil. This is particularly vicious on early NA cars from the early 1990s, especially those that spent their youth in the American Rust Belt, Ohio, Michigan, upstate New York. The sill panels, the floor pans, and critically the subframe mounting points can corrode to the point of genuine structural compromise. A Miata with serious subframe rot is not a car you drive. It is a car you photograph sadly and post to an online forum. Subframe reinforcement on a rusty Miata is a weekend job if you're competent. Parts run $300 to $700. A professional repair might cost you $1,500. It is not ideal, but it is not $15,000. There is a profound difference between a problem that costs you a weekend and a problem that costs you your kid's college fund. The MX-5 is the former. The Boxster, if you choose unwisely, is the latter. The structural rigidity of the Miata is also genuinely inferior to the Porsche. The German car feels monolithic, taut, planted, with zero flex in its body. The Miata, particularly in NA and NB form, has a measurable degree of chassis flex that you can feel on rough roads. It doesn't affect the driving experience dramatically, but it's there, and compared to the surgical precision of the Boxster, it is noticeable. Right, enough about bearings and rust. Let's talk about what actually matters, which is what these cars feel like when you're doing something inadvisable on a strip of tarmac that deserves better company. I drove both of these cars back to back on a stretch of road south of Los Angeles. The kind of road that exists specifically to remind you why you became interested in cars in the first place. Tight second-gear hairpins, long sweeping curves where you can carry genuine speed, and the kind of asphalt that rewards the brave and punishes the sloppy. The Miata, first. Into the first hairpin, late braking, heel and toe downshift to second, and the car simply rotates. There is no drama, there is no threat. The tail moves with such grace and predictability that you begin to feel like a better driver than you actually are. This is the MX-5's greatest gift. It elevates you. It makes you feel like a hero. At 30 miles per hour through a tight switchback, you feel like you're winning Le Mans. The raw, visceral connection to the road in a Miata is unmatched at this price point. The steering is alive. Every camber change, every surface imperfection, every millimeter of available grip reports directly through the wheel into your palms. It is mechanical sympathy in its purest, most democratic form. And on a track day, a local HPDE event at your regional circuit, the Miata is a revelation. Quick enough to be fast, slow enough to learn from. Then I got into the Boxster, and everything changed. The Boxster at speed is not raw. It is not forgiving in the same soft, encouraging way. It is precise, it is surgical. The high-speed stability of the mid-engine layout means that at 100 miles per hour on a closed course naturally, the car feels as planted and composed as a building. The front and rear loads are so beautifully balanced that snap oversteer is essentially a theoretical concept rather than an immediate threat. You have to be genuinely aggressively wrong to upset it at speed. On Pacific Coast Highway, on a track day, on any road where speed is available and the surface is good, the Boxster is simply on another level. The flat six, screaming toward the red line, the chassis locked onto the tarmac, the lateral grip generating forces that make you question your breakfast choices. This is a car for the driver who has graduated beyond flickable fun and wants surgical high-speed commitment. The Miata is jazz, improvised, emotional, deeply personal. The Boxster is classical music, composed, precise, and utterly devastating when played at full volume. So, is the Boxster worth twice the price of a clean, naturally aspirated Miata? Yes. And no. And also, it completely depends on who you are. If you are a first-time sports car buyer, if wrenching in your driveway on a Saturday morning sounds like joy rather than punishment, if you want a car that will never ever humiliate you financially, and if the idea of pure, undiluted driving communication appeals to you more than outright performance, buy the Miata. Buy the cleanest, lowest mileage NB you can find for $8,000 to $12,000 on Facebook Marketplace. Do the subframe reinforcement, change the fluids, put on a set of proper summer tires, and go drive it until you're grinning so hard your face hurts. It is the greatest argument for driving as a feeling that has ever been made. But if you are the sort of person who has done their homework, who understands what the IMS bearing is and has budgeted accordingly, who finds a 987 Boxster S with a fully documented service history and an IMS retrofit already completed, then what you have found, for between $18,000 and $25,000 on Bring a Trailer, is one of the greatest driver's cars ever conceived by human beings. Full stop. End of discussion. The Miata earns the Convertible Verse seal of approval for being the most honest, most joyful, most alive car money can buy at the $15,000 mark. And the Boxster earns it for being the car that proves mid-engine German engineering doesn't require a Ferrari budget to make you feel like a god. One is a poem, the other is a symphony. Both deserve to be heard at full volume, with the roof down, on the best road you can find. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go explain to my accountant why I've just bought both of them. If this video helped you figure out which one belongs in your garage, do me a favor, hit the like button. It genuinely helps more people find this channel, and frankly, more people should be talking about these cars. The full breakdown, recommended specialists, IMS bearing retrofit guides, and the best current listings on Bring a Trailer and Craigslist, all of that is linked in the description. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.